I'm John Seacott, executive editor of Brewer. Welcome to another Brewer Podcast, the Cider Business Podcast for you this week. Of course, that you can find us online at brewermag.com, 24 hours a day there, and you can listen to these podcasts both on Spotify and YouTube. Make sure that you're liking and subscribing. We are sponsored by Square and Keg Logistics. Running a restaurant is a lot. You start out with a vision for something special, but that vision gradually gets overshadowed by the day-to-day of it all, doesn't it? Well, the thing that I love about Square is how it helps take some of that pressure off so you can actually enjoy why you started it in the first place. When Square steps in, helping you save on food costs, get your menu seen by millions on Cash App, and get delivery app payouts faster, it frees up time and mental energy in a world where both are typically in short supply. Square, here for the magic that's not on the menu. Go to square.com/goodstuff to get started. That's square.com/goodstuff. Of course, we're also sponsored by Keg Logistics, and you can go to keglogistics.com/brewermag for more details. Well, what happens when one of the Midwest's largest pick-your-own farms decides to make hard cider a part of the guest experience instead of just another product line? Well, in this episode of the Cider Business Podcast, Jerry Hearn of Eckert joins us to discuss how the Illinois apple farm has turned its homegrown fruit into a business strategy that supports agritourism and strengthens new customer engagement. That's from bringing cider production in-house to hand labeling every can. Eckert has built a model where hard cider supports more than just beverage sales. It can enhance the overall visitor experience. Jerry's sharing insights on balancing labor versus automation, using more of the apple crop to reduce waste, and building destination around cider with their Cider Shed, and how it's impacted guest behavior, repeat visits, and per guest spending. It's all here on the Brewer Cider Business Podcast. This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency. And we're joined with Jerry Hearn, the operations manager for Eckert. Jerry, thanks for joining us here on the Cider Business Podcast today.
Thanks, John, for having us, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about what we do here at Eckert's.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Eckert's already has been established as a pick-your-own farm, and now you guys have, over the last few years, kind of delved into the hard cider business as well. And, kind of what led to getting you guys into hard cider and having that overall farm experience for people?
So for us, it was really a culmination of things. So yeah, we've been a pick your own farm for a long time. So 1961 was the first year we did pick your own apples at one of our farms. And really just over time, people love coming out to the farm. They love to experience the farm, but it's become much more about that experience than the actual fruit that they're taking home. So for us, it was really just watching folks go out to the orchard, and it used to be that they'd pick a half bushel or a bushel of apples. And over time, that's kind of decreased, but what happens is people want that perfect apple, right? So there's a lot of waste in the orchard with a pick your own orchard. Anybody that has a pick your own orchard or ever been to one knows that there's a tremendous amount of fruit that is either knocked off or it's inaccessible, it's too high, anymore. Even people don't want to pick the stuff at the bottom of the trees, too low. So for us, it was just really came down to, okay, either we needed to reduce acres of apples because we don't need as much production, or we got to find another avenue for this. And we were already making sweet cider. We made sweet cider for a long time. What else can we do with these apples? There's not a market, there is a market, but it's not a viable market money-wise for wholesale apples. In the U.S., there's an overproduction of apples. So we're watching other farms, and we were a little late to the game for some other farms out there, but we're like, well, we should start making hard cider. We're friends with the Blake's family up north of Detroit, have been for a long time. It's really visiting with them, and they started, about 10, 12 years before we did. They kept telling us, like, you need to get into hard cider. It's a way to find an outlet for a product you're already making or that you're buying in, and you guys need to get into it. So like I said, we're just a little slow to react to that. And we got into it a couple of years ago, and it's done really, really well for us.
Yeah, and what were some of those kind of early investments that you guys had to do? And, was it bringing in a staff that, can make that something that you guys did
Uh,
in-house? How did it start?
so we've actually done it in-house. So myself and then Mark Langston is our head cider maker, and Mark is actually retired teacher, and his wife happens to be one of the Eckerts. So that's how he got into it when he retired. So it's really Mark and I spending a lot of time learning what we're doing, and we have other staff that can help us out when we need it, but it's really just, it's been internal. And so like for us, the first thing we did was there was a microbrewery about an hour away from us that went out of business. And we were approached about buying some of their equipment just out of the blue. At the same time we were talking about this, they didn't know that we were talking about starting it up. So we bought some equipment from them, which wasn't necessarily right, but it was a good way for us to start. It was more, it was beer based instead of being wine based equipment. So difference in tanks and that, but it allowed us to learn what we were doing in an inexpensive way, relatively speaking, to get into making our own hard cider.
Awesome.
That's how we kind of started out.
How is adding hard cider, to the overall experience of what Eckert's can do help with guest experiences and maybe opening new avenues to finding people to either come there or pick it up and bring it home?
Yeah, so what's really kind of cool about it is it is a different customer sometimes than our traditional base, right? So, or it allows our existing customer base to come in. So like our main farm, so we have 4 farms that are open to the public, and we produce the hard cider at what we call home place, or the main farm. And this farm, we typically throughout the course of the year, we'll see about 400 to 500,000 people come through this farm in a calendar year. So it was a way to get them to also have another way to hang out and see what we do, because we built a new, what we call Cider Shed in 2022. It's a live music venue. It has a tasting bar at it. And now, it's really allowed us another way to connect with our guests, and it's not as seasonal, so to speak. It's not tied to the crop. Because really a lot of our stuff, whether we like it or not, is all tied to weather. But the Cider Shed allows us to not be tied to that weather as much, or allows us to have events even if the weather's not perfect, or like especially wintertime. We do a lot of wintertime events in January, February that help out a tremendous amount. And our production facility is set up, and we really keyed that into from our harvesting of apples. So our packing line, you can watch, there's viewing windows to the packing line. Then like where we're already making sweet cider, you can see the cider press so we can make the apple juice. Well, then you can see the fermentation tanks, and it's like the whole process, right? So the one thing that makes us unique compared to some other guys is we can go from start to finish, from growing the apple all the way through to making the hard cider. So that's, to me, is something that's unique. We're not the only guys that do that, but there's very few guys that truly do the entire process from start to finish of growing, processing into juice, and then also making the hard cider.
Sure. How has, even just over these few years of having people trying your stuff and getting more into the market, has your philosophy on what you guys make, how you make it, what you're selling, what works, what doesn't? I mean, how have you adapted?
So, I mean, for us, we started out with, we were doing varietals, apple varieties, and we were doing single strain yeast. For us, we've gone, now we're doing multiple different yeast depending upon our mix and kind of making our base wine. There's a lot of guys that had more experience than us when we first started out. They're like, sugar pays the bills. People like sweet stuff. Things that you make for yourself may or may not sell well. And that's become true. One of our most popular ones is a raspberry hard cider it's a very sweet cider, right? So that I've found out that's very much true, and probably the most true thing that any of the other producers told me, guys that we know that we talked to before we got into this, is that sugar pays the bills.
So. Yeah, it does. And it's interesting because, the one thing we've been, as Brewer Magazine, since 2012, we kind of started the cider side in 2018, is to see how different the ways that you can produce cider is. And there's so many, from traditional all the way through very high commercial, like you said, sweet cells type of things. How do you feel that puts you in the market, for, we're not this, we're this, versus, there are many different avenues that you can be a cidery.
Yeah. So for us, that's kind of the cool thing, right? Is like cider is super adaptable. It can be, and we do nicer drier, like I said, varietals, and we do barrel aged stuff that's in glass bottles. And that's more, what's cool about it is that can be perceived as a special occasion cider, right? And then we have what we call our 4 mainline or OG ciders. It's apple, peach, blackberry, strawberry. Those are our 4 main crops that we grow. Those are in cans, and like I said, we have also where you can get a draft or you can take a growler home. That's much more approachable to me as far as just like an everyday, I'm just hanging out, mowing my grass, whatever you're doing kind of deal. Is where, then we have 500 ml bottles that look nicer and can be more for a special event or something that, I need something a little nicer, even though it's similar, it's just a different feel. That's one thing that's pretty cool to me that I didn't think about getting into it. It's become very apparent is it's a super adaptable, because nobody knows how to categorize cider in the general public. They don't know whether it's a wine, they don't know whether it's a beer, they don't know how to perceive it. So it can kind of be anything you want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk more about the Cider Shed and, kind of how you designed it and, being able to see things up close. I'm sure that gives a great educational aspect to consumers that don't know anything about it. And was that an intentional thing when it was like, okay, we're going to design it this way because it needs to be an educational tool along with a way to sell the area and the experience to people?
So it was, yeah. So that's the nice thing is when it's our slower season, we got a lot more time to educate people, so in January, February, or even like, June or November, there's little gaps in between some of the crops that we grow, is you can take more time to talk to folks. And then it allows us also to have different festivals or different events based around the cider, and it's not weather dependent. And if people want to get into it, it allows those folks that might be home brewers or winemakers that you can actually connect with them and talk to them more in depth on those events. Is where when we're busier, we can worry about just throughput sometimes, right? Because that's anybody that's been to a pick your own farm in October knows that there are a tremendous amount of people wanting to go pick pumpkins and get their picture in a pumpkin field. So it's a little hard to talk to people one-on-one. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't, but it also means that gives us an opportunity to invite those guests back to the farm. And that was a big key for designing the Cider Shed for us. Was, like I said, live music has always been a big part of our business, and we wanted to have a much better venue for that. So that was a big key driver. But then it was also tying in the Cider Shed, and we we're just looking at demographics of our families are changing too, because family, kind of that definition has changed a little bit. Doesn't always necessarily mean kids in a family. It might be that they're bringing out their dogs. So having an outdoor space that's a covered pavilion now, that allows us to have, couples come out with their dogs. It might just be friends coming out just to hang out, or groups of coworkers coming out. That's been one nice thing too that wasn't necessarily expected, was how much like just going after work to have a drink has become a part of our local connection with the community. We're still a destination thing, but it's something a little different than going to the corner tavern, but yet it can be the same thing too, where we'll have kind of regulars coming throughout the week, which was not something that we were expecting with us being a destination business traditionally.
Speaking of the, kind of the business model, and it does change when you add something like this. How have you noticed just on the business and the number crunching that, do you guys see, more sales per ticket, higher amount of people showing up for events than you used to, or more repeat visitors? How do you guys track like this is being a successful part of the business?
So for us, it's really been, there's a couple different things, right? Like, so it has increased our average ticket sale just with our existing customer base, because they're buying a hard cider now instead of buying a bottle of water. So it's a couple bucks more. So you're getting an increased sale there. But then it also has brought in a different customer base, or people that may have not necessarily thought of, because they do think of, Eckert's, well, you go pick apples with your kids there. Now this is a different way to come out to the farm. So that's also brought new folks out and folks that have never been to the farm. So that's another avenue for people to come see what we do and realize that there's a lot of other things that we do here on the farm besides just picking apples. So sure. It's been really good for us to just see that difference in demographic come out to us. And it has exponentially helped us in other avenues. It may not always be necessarily that we're receiving that revenue through hard cider sales, but it's that they're going to our store and buying a pie, or we have a full restaurant that they're eating dinner here. There's other ways that it's kind of helped us bring a new guest out to the farm.
And, adding that hard cider element, like you said, brings in a different group of people. Has
Mhm.
that changed even the events that you guys do or any of the programming that you have there? Because you do see that you can cater to a different audience while keeping the ones that you already had.
So yeah, no, it does. Like I said, with friend groups, that's a
Yeah.
little different. We would get friend groups, but it was an older friend group, or it was they're bringing out their kids. It might not have been mom and dad, but it was a group of moms bringing it out, and it was either kid focused or it was older adults coming out to the farm to go out and either pick crops or just to go eat lunch in our restaurant. But it was a daytime, so we have a lot more evening traffic. And then also, like I said, it's just groups of coworkers, or it's just adults, not necessarily with their families. It's just couples coming together, or just buddies coming together to go out and have a drink and eat dinner together. So that's definitely a different feel for us, which is good. We were a little worried about do we become stale at some point in time, and you just only do that in that 6 week period at the end of September, and October that's the only time you come out to the farm.
Well, let's talk about the operations and production side of things. Like, what have been some of the big investments that you've put in recently to even make yourselves better? It's always, I think, it's great to get started. Then you start to
Yeah.
see these are the problems. This is how we can make it better. Like, what have been those operational challenges that you've been looking to solve?
So, I mean, there's a lot that we've learned, and I've learned personally about filtering. That's always a big one, and just racking tanks. And I mean, it's what I think personally, what I found is it's not necessarily hard to learn how to make hard cider in the wine portion. No, it's very hard about it is to be consistent,
Hmm.
and every batch being the same, because there's so much different with crops as far as especially with us where we're harvesting our own crops, and it's different from year to year. You got different sugar levels, different acids, different tannins in there. So it's trying to be consistent with that, but also then realizing that sometimes we can celebrate the differences and the different years being a little different,
Hmm.
depending upon what we're making. But that's been something that's been very eye-opening. It's just like the consistency part to me, and that's where I feel like we've gotten much better, especially in the last year, of being consistent on our production. Equipment wise, it's all about the tanks. And then, like I said, the filters for us. And we've been getting better. We started out with little 100-gallon tanks, and now we're at 1,500-gallon fermentation tanks. So that's been nice because now it's like, oh, I can make one batch that's the same as what took me, 10 batches before to make. So that's nice. But that's really just been the biggest thing for us is just the consistency portion of it.
Well, you guys, do a lot of bottles. You do cans. I read that you guys, are labeling by hand. How does that decision impact both operations and guest experience? This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency. Running a restaurant is a lot. You start out with a vision for something special, but that vision gradually gets overshadowed by the day to day of it all. Now, the thing that I love about Square is how it helps take some of that pressure off of you so you can actually enjoy why you started in the first place. When Square steps in, helping you save on food costs, get your menu seen by millions on Cash App, and get delivery app payouts faster, it frees up time and mental energy in a world where both are typically in short supply. Square, here for the magic that's not on the menu. Go to square.com/good stuff to get started. That's square.com/good stuff.
So for us, it's a slow process. We'd like
Yeah.
to get a bigger bottler, and I'd definitely like to get a cross flow filter. We're still doing plate and frame, so that's there's some things that I would like to buy on the horizon, but it also for us, we don't want to get in. For us personally, we don't want to get into distribution. So
Mhm.
we have 4 farms that are open to the public. So it's just about for making for us here at the home farm and then just distributing to our own locations. We've had a lot of interest with other local establishments about supplying to them, and that's not something that we're looking to do. We just really want to do it as an in-house. You have to come to our farm and experience the farm. So we're not looking to get big. We're looking to get better, but we're not looking to get big.
Yeah.
Love the Blakes, but not trying to be Blakes.
Well, and it is, especially in the way that the market has moved. I think, and looking at this from both the cider and beer industry, distribution is not all that it's cracked up to be. It used to be, okay, we got to get to that point where we're on shelves somewhere, but the experience and hospitality are the two biggest words in the industry now, and you guys are finding that, like, you're seeing that it's better. And you know what I mean, the thing that, because we're a business podcast, the margins are better. Like,
for sure,
like, why spend money to advertise your product when you're not making any money on it? If people are coming to you, you can definitely just sell it right across the bar.
And for us, we already had an existing business where people are coming to the farm.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tremendous amount of brand recognition in the St. Louis market for us. So we don't need to go out and distribute that. So our largest single business is peaches. Peaches are our single biggest crop. So we didn't need to go out. We distribute through grocery stores here in the Midwest. They're called Schnucks, and then also through Whole Foods. So we have that reach and that advertising outside of here. What we really want is we want people to come to the farms because, the margins are much better if they come to the farm. So that for us is not that we would never, because the world can definitely change. And like you said, it used to be that distribution was the way you wanted to go. But for us currently, we just want to stay where you have to come to the farm to experience our product, buy our product. You can take it home, but we want you to come out to the farm so we can host you here and we can have a good time here on the farm.
Absolutely. How has your production changed? And you kind of brought this up, just the fact that you guys, you had so many apples and people would do the pick and the middle would be gone and the bottom would be sitting there and the top would be on the top. How do you, see that as, okay, well, do you guys have too much even now after doing production and doing stuff? Like, how have you adapted to what the orchard even is for the apples?
No, so for us, we got it last year. I felt like this was the first year in a long time we were pretty balanced out as far as our apple production, where I had enough apples to get through the pick your own. That's still the roller coaster of the theme park, so to speak. It's still people coming out for pick your own. But we had enough for our hard cider and our sweet cider production. So I feel like we finally got that pretty close to balance out. Now this will be year 2, see if we can repeat it, and then we'll learn over a couple of years. Do we need a little more? Do we need a little less? Where are we at in that? But I feel like we got it fairly close to balanced out. If anything, I think we'll be a little bit short with our apple production, but it's okay to run out sometimes, it creates demand.
And I think in the grand scheme of things too, it like we talked about margins, but you're reducing waste. Like you kind of brought it up earlier, to be able to, you're taking something that you already were producing anyway and making money off of it now. I mean, that kind of one of the big keys, especially.
That's a huge part of it. So that was the key driver right there, is because it's very disheartening to grow a crop for 10 months of the year and then see somebody throw it on the ground or walk past it and not be able to sell that product. So that was the key driver, was just to find a use for that. Or we were going to, like I said, we were going to pull out orchards. We were going to just take orchards out of production, push them in, and grow corn, soybeans, something else, because it doesn't make sense to grow it if nobody wants to buy it. You can love growing something, but if no one wants to buy it, you got to find something different for it. And the hard cider has been a really good fit for that.
Well, looking back, what's a decision that made the biggest difference in launching the cidery? What do you think has been a key driver for you guys, and that other people that, whether they are in that, we have an orchard, we don't know what to do with the extra, or we think we can do this? Like, what would you tell them? Like, what was the stumbling block for you that you guys had to overcome at that beginning?
So, I mean, the stumbling block at the beginning is the knowledge of it, is just getting into it and understanding it. But the cool thing is, I feel like everybody in the hard cider world has been very open to helping you understand and teaching you what you need to do. So that was a stumbling block at first, because I think there was some hesitancy there, but really once you get into it, it was like, oh, everybody's pretty open to it. Now, maybe the guy right next to you, he might not be the most open, but he's also not going to tell you that he's not going to help you either. If that makes sense.
Yep.
He might not be excited about it, but generally speaking, everybody has been really open and very helpful in getting us started. So that's been a good thing. As far as stumbling block for us, I think it's that we're an old established business, and at first there was just the capital outlay for buying some bigger equipment, but it's pretty easy once you start to see the returns, especially like I said, with the self-distribution, doing it here on the farm, the margins are there to justify it. But when you first go to an established business that, hey, we want to do this, and especially as a family, the Eckert's family traditionally they didn't sell alcohol, so that was a fairly new thing for us. Since 2010, we didn't start selling alcohol on any of the farms, until 2010. So it's a fairly new thing for us, especially being, as far as fruit growing, we've been in business for over 175 years. To only sell alcohol for the last 16 has been a new venture for us.
But it is, a part of the, I guess, the way that you can bring more people in, find different ways. And maybe it was, just not frowned upon, but not thought of.
It wasn't frowned upon. It was not that, as far as like a function for the family to go and do something, there was still going to be a bottle of wine. It was just like, well, why don't we do this ourselves? It was not frowned upon in that respect. It was just, we didn't do it. So it was just getting past that. Well, why don't we do it? Why we should do this?
Absolutely. Well, it seems to be going good. And, I'm glad that we got a chance to talk about it and kind of share about it. It's always good to see some new people coming in, understanding, learning the business. And like you said, like it's such a welcoming industry. Same on the craft beer side. You don't see that in construction or even probably on the other side of fruit sales. Like that's not they're not sharing stuff like that.
Knock on wood, that is one good thing about fruit farmers. We will all conspire in our misery of why do we grow fruit. Now we'll help each other out. So I'm very lucky in the fact of what I do here. I've never been frowned upon, or another industry person in any industry that I deal with tell me they won't help me. So that's very nice, because there are industries where they don't help you out.
Awesome. Well, I always like to end after we talk business for a little bit, get to know a little bit about you, have some fun questions, things like that. So I was had to look those up while you were talking, because I realized I didn't write any out yet. So I'm gonna have to go into my bag of previously used ones because I have them written down already. So we'll start with this one. What is your go-to fast food order?
So my go-to fast food order is going to be a mushroom and Swiss burger from Hardee's. I don't know if they're called Hardee's or Carl's Jr. out there where you're at.
Yep. But Hardee's for me. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Man, so I miss Hardee's. So that was my, like, it was on the way to, in middle school especially, and my mom would drive me to school just so we could stop at Hardee's and get those cinnamon raisin biscuits, which they stopped making, and now they have cinnamon buns, and I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Yep.
What were you guys thinking? If there was a cidery or a brewery that you wished you had been a part of, you had opened, or even just a beer brand or cidery brand that you wish you created, what was on your, oh man, that would have been cool to have been there at the ground floor?
I don't know, man. I like Guinness. So it would have been cool, man. But Guinness is a big one, but back in the day, that would have been cool to be over there hanging out with the old Irish guys trying to figure that out.
And signing that contract for what, like 10,000 years, like they get to keep that property. It's just something ridiculous. Like that's pretty cool. And I agree. I mean, talk about, getting in on the ground floor. Like, what is it, 17, 16, 15? It's old. Cool. So Jerry, you a singer, a karaoke singer at all?
So no, I'm not a karaoke singer. I do like singing in my truck. So.
Not even after a few drinks, you don't have a song you'd have.
Well, I mean, everybody does after a few drinks. I'm professional then, but.
What do you reach for? Like, what are you singing?
So I'm a big 90s grunge guy. So Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, pretend I can be Chris Cornell, but nobody can.
No one can. Amen. All right. I'll this one is, since you're in the area, you probably actually might have one. It's always fun to ask people. I was just in Louisiana and brought this liquor up to someone and they had never heard of it. Do you have a Malort story?
Yes, Malort. Yeah, it's So a couple years ago up in Chicago, I was part of a ag group. Imagine that, farm boy being in a ag group. But we went to the big city of Chicago, and that was my first experience of Malort. And it was after some other drinks, and oh, my God, no, yeah.
It is.
I got one story. And that's the only story I'll ever need about Malort.
It's amazing because I've brought this up probably in the last 6 months or so to people from all over the country, and to hear the stories that you either love it, you hate it, or you love to see other people in pain for it, even though you're not. Like, that's me.
Yeah.
Like, I have a bottle of it only because I want
Yeah,
to
to
give it
give
to
to somebody
everyone
else.
yeah, here, you try this. It's like,
Yeah.
why do we do that to our friends and our neighbors? And like, this is terrible. Here, now your turn. I've never
It's like
understood
you're only
that
gonna give it to
concept.
your buddy. It's like, why don't you give that to somebody you don't like? But here, try this. But yeah, it's
So yeah, Malort is definitely an interesting thing. It's like that and Fernet, I think, are the two like liquors
yeah,
that like, and Rumpelmans, I guess, would be the old school version as well of, but just like, why are you drinking this?
yeah. I mean, Rumpelmans is I could handle that if somebody was like, here, I wouldn't turn it down. But yeah, Malort, sorry, I'm okay.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, that's the one and done. I think most people only have one story personally with it, and then
Yeah, exactly.
otherwise, just give it to your friend or your buddy.
Well, Jerry, thanks for talking with us, and we
Thank
appreciate
you.
it, and good luck to the future of Eckert's.
All right, see you later. Thanks.
Thanks. This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency.